Hey everybody, who is here? Who's joining me? Okay, today I'm going to be talking to the gorgeous, magical Nicola Humber, all about expressing yourself unbound. I'm really excited, and let me see, I've just seen Nicola, so let me get her on for. Yay! Come on, Nicola. Yay! I love it when technology works.
I know, it always surprises me. I don't know why. I'm like, oh, this is amazing.
Oh my God, it's so gorgeous to see you.
Oh, and you love.
So let me just introduce you. I'm sure like pretty much everybody in the world knows who you are now.
Well, of course.
Especially our worlds. Yes, of course. Hashtag, of course. So guys, this is really truly magical. If you know anybody magical, it's like her name is Nicola. Nicola Humber. And she's a multi-authoress. 3 books, I think you've written now and published.
So far.
And founder of the amazing Unbound Press. And I'm gonna let you just say a little bit about that and about your own journey before we dive into this super juicy topic today.
Yeah, okay. I will try and keep it a little bit. So yeah, as you said, I'm an author myself. I'm founder of the Unbound Press, which is a soul-led publishing imprint for magical women like you, Zoe, to create transformational books. And yeah, we work with women to help them express the truest essence of what you're here to share. So
Just wave for you.
it just kind of came right up on the screen, like nice, thanks, Zoe. Yeah, and as well as obviously supporting our authors to write and publish the books and birth them into the world, we're also like a really amazing community that to me is just as important, that it gets to be this community, this family of authors and people writing books and also readers, so like everyone's part of this gorgeous Unbound community.
Yeah, the community is absolutely awesome. I love it. I love it so much, and it feels so like, give me a better word, but it feels so authentic. It really does. It's not just about, hey, we're all here to market each other's stuff, and you know, it's really like, you guys really do feel like my family, and I love that so much.
It definitely goes beyond books. Definitely. Like books are like the gateway to all the other magic that happens within the community and within that space. Definitely.
CJ says, fabulous, strong ladies. Yeah,
you know it.
So Nicola, I just want to dive in. We can introduce this topic if you like. But I wanted to dive in straight away actually and ask you, what on your unbound journey, what do you really feel that like, how has your most soul aligned expression come out? And has that been like over a long period of time, or I'd love you to just kind of expound on that a little bit.
No, it was just like that overnight. I just kind of went, oh, okay, I'm fully expressed now. My work is done.
So done.
Yeah, it's definitely an evolving process. I feel like, I mean, an evolving process throughout my lifetime, as it is for each of us. I think we get to kind of reconnect and rediscover and remember who we truly are through all the experiences that we live through. But it's definitely sped up over the past kind of 10 or so years, like throughout my 40s. Like I was 50 at the end of last year, and I feel like that period of my 40s was a really big one of giving myself permission to be more fully expressed. And it feels like there's been even more of a quickening, like in, you know, over the past kind of couple of years, and even throughout this year. Like I feel like, and that doesn't just feel personal to me, it feels like a lot of us, it's like, hang on, we're totally over this kind of holding back. It's giving ourselves permission to express more fully.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's definitely how I feel as well. And I love that you brought in this year as well, because this year for me has just felt like even more kind of condensed than the last 2 years.
Yeah.
It's been completely bonkers in a very challenging way, and also in a good way.
Yeah. They always go alongside each other, don't they? Like the bonkers and the craziness and the challenge, and also the magic and the amazingness. And actually, I just want to say, when I'm talking about like being fully or more fully expressed, it's not just with what we say or write or, you know, or even create, but it's like just the way we show up in our lives, the choices we make, like every single aspect of our life.
Yeah, that's really important actually, because as you know, all of like how we kind of step into our expression, it has all of these knock-on effects into the rest of our life. Absolutely. And I just wanted to touch on that idea as well of how we, like, what we're expressing, because I think that's a really important, before we actually go into, you know, let's all just, you know, let ourselves out there and go crazy, because I think that people think it's either or. Maybe they're let's grant people, all of us, intelligence. We know it's not either or, but I think that sometimes it feels that way, that we've either got to be in our little duvet fort and not really doing very much, or kind of just kind of nipping out and doing little bits here and there, or we're just like rah in your face and sweary and like shouty and just saying all the things unfiltered. And I mean, I don't like that word unfiltered, because like all of those words, it kind of, it assumes that you're taking something away, doesn't it, from what's in there. But what I want to really point out, bring to the fore here, is the issue of integrity, and specifically with ourselves, with our soul. It doesn't have to be integral to anybody or anything else, but if we're integral in ourselves, I think that's, honestly, for me, that has been the biggest game changer when it comes to expressing myself. Because I know that if I'm in integrity with myself, then nobody can hurt me. And I'm worried about putting my message, whatever it is, out there, because it holds strong. I'm not trying to copy somebody else. I'm not trying to emulate somebody else. I'm not trying to do something a certain way because social media gurus say so. If it's integral to me, then that's, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah. And I know, like, especially in the past, the only way that I've discovered if something isn't quite in integrity or aligned, for me, is like through the expressing of it. Like, I've had to do it first. Like, maybe I have kind of unconsciously or consciously. And I don't know, being influenced by somebody else or what was expected of
Yeah.
me, and
Yeah.
I've expressed something, I kind of felt that was true to me in the moment, and it's through the expression of it that I've received that feedback from myself that actually, no, that isn't true for me. So I think we need to let go of any expectation that we're always going to get it right. And
Oh my God, yes.
yeah,
Oh
yeah,
my, yes, absolutely. That, yeah, that's another key element I feel is that just exploring, trying things on.
yeah.
If you're trying on like a big baggy jumper, it might look comfortable, but actually, is it?
Is it a bit itchy?
I think it reminds me of where I was like much near the beginning of my kind of online journey, presence, whatever you want to call it. And I was following coaches and people who kind of, they were very extroverted.
Mm.
And as an intense introvert, I was both attracted and magnetized to that, and also terrified of what they were basically telling me to do and say, and how to do that. And so I kind of try these things on, and I would put things out there, and I'd feel great for maybe like 2 minutes, and then I'd shrink back again because it wasn't me.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like, I don't know, is this true? But the more we can express from that true place, like from who we truly are, I want to say we're less likely to experience that contraction afterwards, but actually, I'm not sure if that's true. Like
Yeah.
sometimes when we're like really
Yeah.
expressing from our heart, from our soul, like we can still experience that afterwards, that kind of vulnerability hangover. But it's coming from a different place than if you're like trying to do something because you feel you should. That piece about kind of that prescriptive kind of advice that we can receive about how to express ourselves, particularly online, but with books as well. It can be very like, when you need to do it like this and like have this outcome in mind, and we can paint ourselves into a corner with that. And we were just having a conversation about this in my Unbound Writing Mastermind earlier, and sometimes, as I was saying, we need to try those things before we realize, hang on, that's not right. That's not right for me.
Yeah. It's like life, really, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
We're constantly figuring out who we are. And I think so. Guys, I just want to say as well, please put any questions you have below about this topic, like anything around what it means and what it feels to express yourself in a really unbound, kind of uncensored, free flow, expansive way. Like, what comes up for you, your fears, your doubts, your shame, your guilt, whatever. And we would love to address your questions on this. And let's see if my brain can come back to what we're talking about.
I just want to say, actually, when we're talking about like being uncensored, and it can feel like, I've got to, and you spoke to this like earlier in the conversation, Zoe, but it can feel like we've always got to be like really kind of edgy and like putting stuff out there that's kind of shocking. And
that was the vibe like maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, had to shock to get people's interest. Yeah.
But it's interesting. I get surprised sometimes. Like I would say generally I'm quite comfortable with expressing myself and like online, like on social media. But sometimes I'll write something or share something which seems like quite innocuous. It's like, that's not, but it feels like really vulnerable. So I think sometimes it can take us by surprise, the things that, like, to us feel really unbound when you wouldn't expect it, and things that, you know, maybe do come under that banner of like uncensored and shocking. It's like, oh, that's fine. But it's these, I don't know, we've all got our own funny little...
We've all got our own baggage, haven't we?
Yeah.
I mean, my brain will not remember the exact example, but this came up for me recently over a specific theme. And I generally find nowadays that I can talk about just about anything about myself and be okay with it. Clearly, it depends on the audience. My mother-in-law might not. But yeah, sometimes you do get those moments where it touches something that you thought you'd healed fully, or that you were completely, you know, open to everything, and there's just something there, like the memory of a nerve, maybe not necessarily a raw nerve, but just a memory of one. And yeah, you're right, it can absolutely catch us off guard. So on that note, I'd love to ask you, how do you deal with those situations?
This is something I recommend to kind of unbound writers as well. If I notice something coming up, like as I'm sharing it, or maybe afterwards, I will acknowledge that. So if I'm writing a post or an email or something, like if I'm writing a book and I notice some like feelings bubbling up as I'm writing, I'll just like acknowledge that on the page or in the post.
Love it.
Like, as I'm writing this, I notice that I'm feeling like this. I'm feeling some shame, or like feeling uncomfortable, because that helps to kind of clear it through.
Yeah.
And also, I just feel that's kind of really powerful for whoever is connecting with the post or the book or the email. It shows like it's not always easy to be expressing ourselves fully. So that's how I tend to handle it, like by presencing whatever's there.
Yeah, I love that, because that's something that I feel is so key to that kind of alchemical process anyway. Is, you know, if you have a feeling, if you have a block that you really feel is holding you back, the first, as they say, you can't do anything until you look at it, until you hold it in your heart, feel it in your body, and let yourself breathe through it. Because when we begin to breathe through it and actually hold it with love in our body, not judgment or criticism or shame, when we flood it with an abundance of love in our bodies and we allow it to be breathed through us, that's actually when we can start to shift it.
And we're giving voice to that part of us who's feeling that way. But I think that embodiment piece, you know, that you mentioned there, allowing it to really move through, breathing through it, is really important. That's why I love what you do, Zoe.
Yes. And I think that's a perfect opportunity to tell people about what we're doing together, Nicola.
If we can find the words. Cooking up something special.
So Nicola and I are going to be joining our visual and verbal embodied forces together to help you to fully, and when I say fully, I don't just mean like all the words, I mean fully as in all of you, all of who you are, and all of who you are beginning to understand about who you are, because we don't have all the answers.
No.
And also all of who you are becoming. Now, that seems a lot.
It does.
But it's such a magical and truly, truly just energy expanding process. We're going to get on some paper. So if you think about taking up space, so often when we struggle to express ourselves in any way, it's about, one of the biggest fears is about taking up space, taking the spotlight in some way, stealing from somebody else's space, or, you know, kind of airtime, whatever it is. And so even just getting into our whole bodies into this white space is actually such medicine in itself. And then we're going to meditate and move and breathe in this space. And we're going to begin to quiet the verbal and logical mind so that we can just take that stuff offline, put it to the side, and allow all of your many other senses and energies to come online for you. And together with Nicola's going to take us into a really beautiful meditation to help us envision our most fully expressed creative selves. Do you want to say a little bit about that?
Yeah, so really connecting with your unbound self, that fullest, freest expression of you. And as you've said, Zoe, like this is, it definitely goes beyond words. It's like expressing with your full self. Like that's what the whole session is going to be about. So I'm really, or the intention is to connect you with that kind of full expression of who you are. And then to go into this process, like, so you're open to go into this process, which Zoe will be going through.
Yes.
And the piece about space is really like allowing yourself to take up space is something I found really interesting. Like when I did one of your sacred expression sessions earlier in the year, like I realized I had just enough space for the paper, like just enough. And there was something around kind of allowing myself to take up just enough space, but any more, like having any extra space around that was like, oh, I'm not sure if I, you know, am I allowed to do that? And it was really, really interesting. And I feel like that has really stayed with me since that session throughout this year. That kind of, oh yeah, maybe it's okay to take up more than enough space. So I feel like that's part of the invitation from this session. It's like that express unbound, like allow yourself to take up more than enough space.
Yes, because when we, and you know, I'll go into this more in the session obviously, but when we feel like, oh, we can operate from this zone, maybe even just our, you know, the extent of our physical outline, that's enough for us. And putting your arm out, my gosh, you know, even that feels a little bit too kind of greedy, doesn't it? And so but if you think about that, we are our physical and we are our energetic. And our energetic sphere, honestly, can, when we're inhabiting and allowing it, it can extend several meters around us to all sides. And so if you think about your whole self, you should be thinking, you know, we need to be thinking about that.
Yeah.
That whole self. My God.
Yeah.
I'd love to know if anybody listening to this, either now or in the replay, does that feel selfish? Does that feel ridiculous? You know, to think, gosh, all of me fully expressed takes up like several meters in a big orb all around me. Because, and the importance of this is, it's about your fullest expression is so much more than simply your physical or mental or even emotional self. And all of those can take up so much bandwidth that we get really, really kind of, what's the word?
Blinkered.
Sorry?
Blinkered? Is that what you're...
Blinkered. Yeah, I think that's a really good word. We get blinkered into, well, this is who I am.
Yeah.
And we forget to even allow the experience of what else is actually you and what that even means. And I understand that this can sound very kind of out there and woo woo, and you know, doesn't matter. It's on
it kind of is out there, to be honest. Let's unashamedly own that.
What I want to bring it back to is the reason that this is so important is because this is actually the core of who you are. If you start to, as we actually are very much conditioned into doing, if you compress that energetic sphere around yourself and you constantly deny it, then of course you're going to be, you know, you're going to be in your little box, and that's where you're going to operate from. And that's not your whole self.
No, and actually that impacts, like we can feel, oh, well, that's, you know, if I'm operating outside of the box, if I'm allowing myself to take up more space, then that's selfish and it's impacting negatively on other people. Whereas I feel, like as you said, our energetic bodies like expand into the space, like 4 meters. And that means that a lot of the time, you know, we're kind of mingling all of our energetic bodies. We're connecting with each other. So if we can allow ourselves to be more fully expressed, that impacts in a positive way on others. Like when we're holding ourselves back, and I totally get that often it doesn't feel safe to express ourselves fully or to take up space. So I just want to acknowledge that. But
also the time, isn't there? If I'm walking down the street, I'm less likely to be, you know, this is me.
But I do play with that every now and again. But you know, people can feel it.
Ability and
it kind of, I think when we, or I know that when we give ourselves permission to express from that unbound place, to be who we truly are, that can serve as an activation to others and, you know, help them to connect more fully with their full selves as well.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, you know, as I see our bubbles, excuse me, as it were, you know, our energetic spheres all mingling and being very fluid around each other. And maybe we kind of, you know, we bump bubbles occasionally, but it's not like we're kind of knocking glass on glass.
No.
And I think the more that we really feel into this, that we are all part of this fluid, magical space. We don't have to have hard boundaries around ourselves. Side note to, if you have any kind of, as many of us do, have issues around trauma, of course you have your safe habits, you have your safe zones, you have your safe needs and requirements, and you must honor that. And that, you know, that's part of a trauma-informed practice, of course.
Yeah.
But what I'm talking about here is beginning to understand that we're not just all of these little individuals bumping around and kind of taking each other's space, and it doesn't have to be like that. I think that's a very patriarchal way of how we've been taught to view the world. And actually, we're community. We're supposed to be in each other's space, but we're also supposed to honor our own.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like a beautiful kind of dance, isn't it? You know, where we're kind of tuning into that, and just you know, I'm getting excited as we're speaking about this, like the idea of expressing from that place. And when we're talking about expressing, like during the session that we're going to be co-hosting, like just making marks on the paper and like allowing your body to move in the way that it wants to, and not having any expectation about like what those marks on the paper look like, what they mean, like whether they look pretty or kind of orderly or any of that stuff. It's just so liberating.
Yes, and just letting yourself really surrender to it. And part of the beauty of this, because we're doing it to music, we're opening our body up completely, we're using like the full extent of our body, but also both sides. We're allowing that ourselves to get into both hemispheres, rather than staying in our kind of left-brained world of this is how things work and this is what's possible. We're allowing ourselves the cross communication. When we do this work, that the corpus callosum just lights up, because it's actually talking to the other side of your brain.
And I love it as somebody who, I'm working with words all the time, either through my own writing or, holding space for other women to write and publish their books. But like, I've felt this for a long time, that like it goes beyond words. It's not all about the words. And the words are important, but it's like the energy behind the words as well. Like one of the new books that we're going to be releasing through the Unbound Press is actually called Beyond Words. And, it just feels like we're each being called to go beyond words and even to use words in a different way. And I feel that the work you do, Zoe, really helps us to do that.
Yeah, I do too. Selfishly, this has really helped me. Because when I channeled this at first, this whole sacred expression kind of method, it felt ridiculous. It felt like, it wasn't art therapy and it wasn't yoga. I mean, it is yoga because so much actually is, but it doesn't have that label. Anyway, side note. Then it didn't really fit into any boxes, of course. And as I developed it and as I played with it, crucially, I realized like why it had all of these pieces and why they were all so important. And it is like the crux of it really is about that fully embodiedness. Because if you're just operating from your brain or a part of your brain, and just maybe using your fingers to type or using your dominant hand, like none of that is just all of you. Like it's a tiny part of you. And so that fully embodied piece is just like what it's all about, and actually getting you into that. So it's, yes, you're dancing, you're moving, there's a sensual sacred expression, actual physical movement and breathing, and allowing yourself to close your eyes, so you're shutting down your dominant kind of sense and just going within and feeling into the white space and moving into it, and actually allowing yourself to move your own energies. So you're drawing them up, you're generating that power, and then you're moving it out onto the paper, and then you get to choose some colors, intuitively choosing what colors you want to use and using both hands and drawing with them, and taking up all of that 2-meter by 1.5-meter space of paper. I mean, how often do you get to do that?
I know, like as you're talking about it, I'm almost salivating. It's like
but what's also obviously so like even more powerful is that with this method we are like together, you and I are then intentionally going to take it back to the verbal, And this is not something I do with all of my sessions. I might kind of say, okay, we're going to integrate a little bit back to the verbal. And I encourage people to maybe journal and so on, because you have to integrate back to everyday life, right?
Yeah.
But what we're specifically doing together in the session is actually bringing us back into the verbal and allowing all of that to kind of integrate in the session, so that you can see, you can link, make the connection to the words, the phrases, maybe even the projects that you want to create right now. And you're doing this in a space that is limitless, because you put yourself in that space energetically and in an embodied way.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, just so I just can't wait. I really can't wait, because when we kind of enter a space like this, and with this really strong and clear intention, often I feel we're able to access parts of ourselves or ideas, insights, kind of inspiration that wouldn't come through in any other way. And you know, sometimes those words or ideas, whatever it is, when they first come through, it might feel like they don't make sense. Like, I really want to say and give permission to everybody who joins us, like, give yourself permission not to make sense. Yeah. But just like coming from that place of curiosity and playfulness, and just allowing what wants to come through, because that's when the magic happens.
And I guess on that note, I'm kind of preempting. I haven't seen any comments or questions, so I'm kind of preempting what some of them might be. But I guess, why would anybody want to be like, because in our society, there's so many different ways of shutting us down.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so easy / comfortable / normal / whatever you want to stay, you know, even for us, for me and you, who are, I would say, actually doing pretty well in our self-expression and our soul expression, we still have those kind of times and limits when we literally just want to stay in our little safe boxes. And I guess maybe I'm also talking to my past self, as well as anybody who might be listening, who has that question, well, but is it worth it? Like, what do I really get out of this?
Well, I know, like, I can speak for myself, and my own experience. Like, the most magical things, the most magical ideas, those kind of twists in the path that I have taken, have always come not from a thinky place, not from me sitting down and going, okay, what's my next step? What do I need to do? Like, what would be the most kind of sensible idea? Like, you know, all of these things. Even though a part of me would love to do that, would love to just be able to kind of sit down and figure it all out. The most magical things, like the Unbound Press, like, these all come from this place of, you know, when something just drops in, and in that moment it doesn't make sense to your logical mind. It's like, well, I can't do that. That wasn't what I was expecting, you know. But like, your soul can feel, oh, that's a yes. So I think that's the space that we're intending, hoping to create, where you're able to access those kind of insights and ideas, or just like the glimpse of what kind of a next step or a thread that you want to follow. It might be like one word. You know, when I connected with the word unbound back in however long it was, like 2014, like, which was, you know, as soon as I saw that word, it felt important to me. I had if someone had said, right, you're kind of, all of your work from this point forwards is going to kind of flow out from this one word, I'd be like, don't be ridiculous. But it's like, look what it's led to. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes. Super powerful. Yeah, absolutely. Oh my goodness. Yes. And I think as well, when you're living from that space, it just like the feeling of everything is so different. You know, of course, I have moments and periods of anxiety and fear and so on, but I'm not living in that space permanently. And looking back at who I was, especially 20 years ago, my God, but honestly, even 10 years ago, I was so much in that space of permanent fear and anxiety and just not knowing why the hell I'm here.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel it's that kind of knowing that you can't think your way into.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's pretty big. Like, you know, rediscovering why you're here.
As well. So it can feel, maybe it can feel overwhelming, that idea of, my gosh, that's a lot to step into. But like all of these things, it's just one step and then another and then maybe another, you know. When I look at my own sacred expression journey, and I shared this with my group recently, that across the last kind of however long it's been, 5 years, I think it's been 5 years, in the beginning sessions, my movements were very much, they were sweeping. I was using my whole body, but they were still very controlled, and I was still very much kind of almost like trying to make something pretty and balanced.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I could see a lot of balance happening, and that's not wrong. I just want to say that, you know, first of all, that's not wrong. Clearly, when I look at those early pieces, I was craving balance and harmony and so much of that kind of structure. That's a word. But now, because I've learned to develop that internal rhythm and harmony and generate it at will, I can then just, like, my pieces now when I go into sacred expression, even though I'm teaching, but I'm still able to kind of do this at the same time. It's just, I'm always amazed what comes out and how much crazy, and like, I will choose colors that I would never have chosen before, because like black, oh God, don't want to use black. Or I had somebody in one of my early sessions said, I can't use yellow. I was like, that's so interesting. So there's all of these parts of us that we can get to literally play and explore. And it's such a beautiful way, because it is fun and messy, and there's no judgment on any of it. Like, you don't have to show what you've created. You can literally go and burn it straight away, which is a really good way of releasing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's no judgment at all. It's not like if you've written something and then your critical mind is reading it over and going, oh my God, you know, this is just such an alchemical process of allowing yourself to explore these things without kind of that traditional, almost like personal development therapy mindset of, well, what are we fixing here? It's not that. It's not that at all.
No, exactly. And like the impact of it, that allowing yourself to have this experience, I think it kind of ripples out into your world, into your being over a period of time as well. Like that piece about taking up space, like I said, it came, I mean, I've worked with that like over the years in different ways, but I had like a really felt experience of it during the session with you. And it feels like then that became like this theme that I was playing with and experimenting with because of what was activated during that session. So it's really interesting to see what gets initiated in that space.
Yeah, definitely. Oh my goodness, I'm so looking forward to this. So we're going to be doing this on Friday the 27th of May, 10:30 a.m. UK time. And it's a 2-hour workshop so that we really allow ourselves to immerse and be present fully in all of it. And we take you right from stepping in and kind of beginning to meditate and move in our bodies all the way back out to integrating and letting yourself come back to the real world. Go out after you've fully expressed. And then, yeah, I always offer aftercare support as well afterwards, because there's always stuff that comes up, of course, and things you want to discuss, and even just show, like, you know, this happened, or look at how I'm expressing myself now.
Yeah,
all of it. So, oh my goodness, we talked for almost an hour. I can't believe it.
Have we? Didn't really talk about taking up space.
Yeah. I'd love, if anybody has any questions or anything, please leave them in the comments, and Nicola and I will get back to you over the next couple of days. But I'll also pop the link below to the workshop. And please join, please tell your friends, because honestly, this is just going to be so epic.
Yeah, we would love for you to be there. And the link to the workshops in my bio as well, if that's somewhere people can find it.
Called Express Unbound.
Yes. Yeah. And if people can't join live, they can access the recording.
There will be a recording, absolutely. The energy live obviously is just really kind of off the charts amazing, but people who do the replays say they feel really held and supported in that energy as well. So yeah, it's worth knowing.
Yeah, fantastic. Can't wait.
Yes. Okay, thank you people for joining us, and let us have your questions or comments below, and hopefully we'll see you on the 27th.
I hope so. Bye.
Bye.